Welcome everybody who's tuned in for today's webinar. This is another addition to our webinar series. Today we will focus on the Epson F3070, the DTG printer that you see on your screen here. I have three fabulous guests joining me. All three are Equipment Zone sales reps and trainers, and I emphasize trainers because they do a lot of informative training to their prospects and clients. They've been past participants in many of the webinars. I'm grateful for their time. Let's start with ladies first. I have Amy Krulowitz, then I have Jeff Morgenthaler, and of course, the veteran, the one and only Terry Combs. How's everybody doing?
Doing great.
Awesome, Jay.
I'm glad you're here. So as you know, we've set this up for a discussion, and I wanted to try to make sure that we could help those that are new to this printer, which is pretty much everyone, be able to understand some of the principles. Now that we've been around it for a little while, we've sold some, we've had an install. Jeff got to visit one of his clients in Oklahoma, so hopefully we can hear a little bit about that. But the concept of redefining DTG printing and why, justifiably, why Epson is making a big deal about this printer being the future of DTG production. And so I think that we've got a lot of great talking points and a lot of discussions. So the format for today will pretty much be, you guys are the star of the show, and you're going to share questions and frequently asked questions from clients and from prospects. And we will walk through this together to be able to highlight some of the features, some of the benefits, and why we believe at Equipment Zone that this really is a big deal, and we're pretty excited about it. So that having been said, I'm ready to turn this over to Terry. Terry, you are our first speaker, if you will, and I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to also bring up the official Epson PDF that they send us so that we can have some reference while we talk. And then you'll see me switching back and forth between this view and then the actual PDF page. So far so good. Everybody's on the same page and I haven't confused everyone.
Yeah. And Jay, I'd just like to point out that we would love to answer questions. So anybody who's watching this, if you have a question, please type it into the chat or into the questions and answers. I'll be monitoring that. And we'll try to follow up with those questions with the topics that we're talking about instead of trying to do everything at the end.
Oh, that's so great. Super smart. It's only taken us about 57 webinars to figure that out, Jeff. But if you could remind us as the hall monitor, you can be, I give you permission and authority to be the hall monitor. And let's stop and pause and see if there are any questions before we transition to the next topic. How's that?
Just that somebody hears an intermittent buzzing still.
Yeah, well, we already picked up on that. So yeah. That's you. So welcome to the party. That happens, you know, it's technology. I think
that is.
It's called here. Terry's swatting mosquitoes or something. Okay. Let's not get carried away. We have some really important information. Great topic today. Super excited about the SureColor F3070. And let me flip through this as I've already introed, redefining DTG printing. I think that's a pretty bold statement, but I also understand how they're surrounding this through breakthrough productivity and repositioning this as not just a commercial printer, but a production printer or an industrial printer. I've heard those two words specifically used. So Terry, I turn it over to you, my friend. Tell us more about this high performance bad boy that we see in front of us.
Absolutely. And Jay, you know, and going back to your first comment about redefining DTG printing, from the very beginning, and most of us have been involved in this for this 17 years of production machines being on the market, and on the not the cutting edge, but the bleeding edge of DTG technology. But here's what we've heard: if only it were faster, if only the ink cost was lower. So that's really where we are here with this F3070, and I want to specifically start with the printhead technology. And so what does Epson say? High performance printhead technology. Now that to me sounds a little bit like, you know, the latest greatest the adjective that you add to anything that doesn't really mean anything. Well, this does. This really means a lot. I mean, you've
So
seen it, you know, the next car that comes out is this and it's that. And it really is just the same as the one before.
are we talking about marketing spin? Is that what you're saying?
I'm talking about you specifically, Jay.
Oh,
Marketing
that's
spin,
what I
yes.
figured I was going to be in. I figured I was going to be in the crosshairs of this conversation. I'm sorry to take you away from your PrecisionCore technology slide, Terry. Please continue.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. And here's one thing, and I'm an old time production guy, which means anything that will keep production going. And this print head will do that. And here's one thing it does. It compensates for clogged nozzles. And what does that mean? It means that this print head will detect if there's the slightest clog, and the other nozzles around it will compensate and basically fill that gap. Well, what does that do for me? That means that until I can go through and do a head cleaning, that I'm going to be able to keep printing without any detection of any, you know, slight missing area in that print. So, I mean, what a cool thing is to, you know, to have a print head so smart that it sees a clog and the adjoining nozzles are going to compensate. Now we're talking about 8,000 nozzles times 2. So the CMYK, there's 2 print heads, by the way. There's a white print head and there's a color print head. Each of those has 8,000 nozzles. So if you have a clogged nozzle, well, it would be pretty hard to have an issue with that anyway. But the fact that it will compensate keeps production running. You don't have to say, well, hold on a second, this print doesn't look quite like the others, or there's banding in this print. You're not going to see it with this type of technology. And, you know, we have a lot of people say to us, well, how long is that print head going to last? Here's how Epson rates these print heads. And this is assuming a 14:16 print. We all know that most of us are printing 10:12 or even a left chest. So even at that size of 14:16, the white print head, the first print head, is rated for 50,000 prints. And then the color, the CMYK print head, 120,000 prints. That's a lot of prints. And then, you know, we're going to talk about it a little bit later on. These print heads can be replaced and they're very inexpensive compared to previous machines, either Epson or other machines on the market.
You know, Terry, I really love how Epson is so transparent on those numbers. That's one thing that they kind of brag about, is that they actually tell you these numbers on, you know, how many prints they expect these print heads to last. You don't get that with a lot of other printers. And I think that upfront honesty and transparency builds a lot of confidence with a lot of our buyers.
Exactly right.
Makes a ton of sense. You guys have done a great job so far. I'm just trying to make sure I've got the right, you'll have to forgive me as I zoom around and try to share the correct screen. So one thing I wanted to share was the concept of, Jeff, I think you brought this up, the print head not parking on the capping station. So that there was a difference there. I don't know, in our meeting we talked about that. So I don't know if you're bringing up that point.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad that you asked that. So when we do our demos with this printer, everybody wants to see how fast it will print. Everybody's comparing print speeds. And I've even seen people at trade shows on this printer, other printers, stand there with a stopwatch and see how fast a print will print. So, but one thing that a lot of people don't measure is this time it takes in between prints. And I've had clients ask me about this. So when you're in high production, it's not just the time it takes for something to print, it's how fast is your printer actually operating and gearing up for that print. So the time in between prints, does that print head go and park into a capping station and then wait and then have to come out of there to start the next print? Well, with the 3070, this is one of the things that Epson really wanted to improve on in their production time, was to shorten that. So the print head doesn't actually go and stop in the into the capping station. It waits for the next print so it can just start printing immediately So you're actually printing more shirts per day because there's less downtime in between prints. Hope I explained that okay.
It made sense to me.
And Jeff, that's something that some people don't look at, but anybody who's actually out there running these machines, and either 1 or 10 or 12 of these printers, if you're actually running, you go, wow, that took like 20 seconds from the time the shirt ejected till it loaded again. And the fact that you can cut off 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 seconds between prints, you're thinking, well, seconds, what difference does that make? But over 500 shirts, that's a lot of time. That's true production time that you're gaining by this technology of it not parking. And Jeff, my first question when Epson said this to us, and I asked, was, well, if it's not parked, is it going to clog? And the printer, again, is smart enough to know that if it needs to go and park and do anything, it will go park itself. But on your typical production run, it's probably never going to go over to that capping station.
Yeah, when you're
just
printing
going back
a
to the,
lot of shirts all at once, then yeah, it doesn't need to go park itself because you're printing so much that ink's flowing through and you're not concerned about that. Sorry, Amy, you had a.
That's okay. So just going back to the not pausing in between shirts, it's one thing when you're working over a day, but what if you've got 2 shifts running? I mean, you add up the number of shirts you can do over 2 shifts, and you've increased your profit that much more. So it's really a dollars and cents issue here. It's amazing. You know how many times we stand around waiting for equipment to move? We wait for that printhead to start going. We know the image is there and it's processing it. And then we go, come on, you can do it. You can do it. Well, now it does it.
It's really amazing to see this printer run and to see that where somebody takes a shirt off, sets it aside, puts another shirt on, and boom, it is loading and starting to print again. It's incredible to watch. Comparing it to really any other DTG printer that's out on the market right now.
So Jeff, as our official hall monitor, were there any questions about the high performance printhead technology, about the nozzle verification? Anything?
We have a question that doesn't have to do with those things, so I think I'll bring this one up towards the end.
Okay, sounds good. So
you could actually DTG print a hall monitor sash later today at the.
That's a great idea, Terry.
I am going to send that over to Roy right now, so maybe he'll be done with it by the time we conclude.
I'll wear that.
Nice bright color so they can see you in the dark.
Fabulous, fabulous. All right, so one of the things that we've talked a little bit about in past sessions for sure is really ink. When we think of ink, we think of the certifications, and we think of the technology, and we think of the chemistry. So I know, Amy, you know a little something about ink. What can you tell us? What would you like to share?
So the nice thing about the Epson ink is that it is OECOTEX approved and it's GOTS approved. Do you want to go to the next slide so we can show everybody what the GOTS stands for? There you go. So basically it means Global Organic Textile Standard. So what does this mean? Well, the OECOTEX Eco Passport basically means that it's safe for babies. It's safe for anybody. I like to say, a baby can lick the clothing. And that obviously is important because I have one customer and all they do are baby onesies. So if it's a whole business of just doing baby onesies, and they know that the ink going onto these baby onesies is completely safe for them, for those babies. The other thing is the Global Organic Textile Standard, the GOTS. Now, everybody is going towards organic these days, organic clothing, organic cotton. It's very, very big. And when you couple the inks that Epson has onto your organic cotton shirts, you're addressing an entire environmental market here. And you're making everybody feel very comfortable that you've got organic products and it's safe and there's no fumes and all of those good issues that make wearing garments really nice. But I was also thinking about why that's important in other items you might be using on the printer. What if you're making pillowcases and you're putting your head on the pillow at night? Don't you want to know that that passes all of these eco standards and that your face is against something that isn't going to affect you in a negative way? And the other thing is, what about these tea towels or golf towels that are so oftenly used? Golf towels especially, I mean, you're wiping your face with it, or your mouth with it. So that's why the ink is just so terrific that it's got these certifications. Very, very important.
Yeah, and Amy, we're printing on face masks now, and so you
Right,
put that ink
right.
right next to your mouth and nose, so it's critical. And I just want to point out, this is one thing I was just thinking of while you were talking, is how great it is that Epson thinks of everything, right? They're looking at all of these details, and it just gives us a level of trust and a sense of security that when we're working with these Epson products, we know that they're doing everything possible to make sure that they're safe, that they work the best they can, and that they're going to take care of us. So it's that's what I hear when we talk about these type of things with the certifications.
And we want to bear in mind that not all DTG inks out there on the market, and even what you might consider major brands have this certification, which means that these products on children's apparel, it's really, really important. And also one more thing I wanted to point out is the Epson pre-treat is also covered under these standards as well. So because if your pre-treat isn't covered and the ink on top is, well, that layer closest to your skin, that's important too. So the same standards for pre-treat as well. So that's an important part of the equation. But bottom line, for our customer, you can say to your customer that these inks are perfectly safe for anyone to wear.
100%. So let me jump in, and guys, I'm going to stir the pot just a little bit, so forgive me. But because I'm involved in several of the Facebook chat groups and monitor those, constantly looking for questions and trends and opportunities, I'm seriously blown away how often someone is suggesting to replace the Epson ink on their printer for some other no-name brand, and their purpose is because it's less expensive. So they're focused on just one thing, one component. Can I get cheaper ink? And the answer to that question is yes. But why would you? Why would you take that ginormous risk of one, ruining the entire printhead system, and two, exposing yourself to this? What Amy just talked about, having those certifications and having that security, and to Jeff's point, the trust that it brings, you can't put a price on that. You're looking for a shortcut at best. And what do we know about shortcuts? They rarely ever work. And in this specific case, it's going to expose you to drama that you just don't want to be a part of. So I'm so glad that we can stand behind this, that we do have those certifications. And Amy, thank you for explaining that, because the world is moving towards a more healthy, organic lifestyle. And to know that the Epson inks are also in that category, it's fabulous. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's really an important point, Jay. But I'm sure we're going to move on. But
we are going to keep moving on. We could talk all day about ink. No, we couldn't.
I was going to, but I decided not to.
Well, one more thing, Amy, if you wanted to talk about the fact that these are high capacity packs,
Yes.
as opposed to
Yes,
cartridges.
we want to get to that. It's really important. So the inks are now in bags as opposed to plastic cartridges. What does that mean? Well, first, are we talking about cost now? Can I talk about cost, Jay?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So the inks are now in 1.5 liter bags. And that is literally, I guess, cutting in half the cost of the inks per milliliter from traditional cartridges. So someone who's using this printer with this kind of volume is going to save that money. They don't have to go to one of those Frankenstein systems and put third-party inks in, because they're going to be saving a whole lot of money with this system by using the bulk ink system. They last much longer. The cost of the ink is a lot longer, and it also minimizes the waste. So when these things have to be thrown away, they can be stacked up like little thin plastics, not those big bulky cartridges. And that's important because a lot of shops just don't have space for storage. Now, also for getting rid of things, it's very hard to throw things away these days. So that makes it easier as well.
Excellent points.
Yeah, Jay, I have a question about the ink. Somebody asked, Nelson asked the question if the F2100 has the same certification. It does. It has all the same certifications as this 3070.
Yeah, the F2000, the F2100, and now the F3070 all use exactly the same ink. And if I can make a really quick comment also about those third-party inks, is that you know, to save a nickel or dime, and keep this in mind, Epson being the largest printhead manufacturer in the world, they make that printhead specifically to accept this ink system. If you change out the inks, you really risk having issues with your printhead, and that's why you see things like machines out there that you have to run every day, that you have to print something every day, because that printhead and the ink system don't match anymore. And yes, a third-party ink is going to be similar chemistry. It's not going to be the same chemistry. So you need to keep that in mind when you're looking at those types of things.
Excellent point. Okay, so we have the next slide ready. And really what we were going to do is get to some of the, as we talked about high performance printhead technology, that led us to high performance ink technology and certifications. And now what I know our clients are constantly asking us for is, tell me about the performance. Tell me about some of those costs. And so Terry, let's let you take the lead on that. I'm going to share the screen.
Sure. We, you know, we, as I said at the front end, everybody said, but if it was just faster, if the ink was just less expensive. The folks at Epson do a really great job of demonstrating this machine by showing a 14 by 16 inch print. And that print is under $1, and that print takes about 1 minute to print. But hey, out here in the real world where the rest of us live, most of us are not printing 14 by 16. Most of us are not printing 16 by 20 that this machine is capable of doing. But if you say a 10 by 12 image, all of a sudden you're looking at 35, 40 seconds for a print on a color shirt, white underbase, color on top. And you're looking more in the range of 60, 70 cents for your ink cost, which is, you know, compared to DTG in the past, incredible difference in cost.
Yeah, Terry, 60 cents per print. That's nothing. I mean, you know, when you're looking at what you charge for these shirts, that's as low as it's going to get. That's an amazing price. And so yeah, it's what Epson's done is they've delivered on what everybody's been asking for: faster, less expensive, and it's here.
And all that does is drive up the profits, because if it's costing you that much less to make a shirt, you're making that much more money on that shirt. And that really adds up when you take that, you factor in all the extra shirts you can do by it not pausing between shirts, that cappings, that talked about that earlier. And now you're making more money all over the place. It's really designed to make a lot of money.
When you're talking about dollars and we're talking about driving up dollars, if it's in the profit column, I'm A-okay with that.
Yeah.
For sure, as are our clients and our prospects. I think about something that I forgive me for not remembering for sure if it was Tim Check or if it was Matt Rome, but one of them specifically was talking about the fact that, sure, you could increase the speed and you could set this at the production quality, or you could even set this at the speed quality, so that you could actually go faster and decrease those print times depending on the quality setting that you choose. So we're not, you know, we want to give the picture and make sure that we're painting the picture correctly, that those users are going to choose where do they need to be, in which lane. Are they printing for speed, or are they printing for high quality? But to have the option is fabulous.
And you know, Jay, I think that one thing we do at Equipment Zone is we don't try to quote the absolute fastest the machine will run or the minimum amount of ink that you can lay down. What we try to talk about is what you're going to do in your shop to have the highest quality product to sell to your customer. Those are the numbers that we talk about, because you know, when people say it'll go this fast or the price is this, it's like you know, I'm an old time screen printer, and back at the trade shows they used to do these tests to see who had the fastest automatic press, and shirts were whipping on and off on. I don't think there's a saleable shirt there,
Right.
because all they were doing is try to show how fast it would go, not how well it would work in a production environment. So at Equipment Zone, we try to focus on what is the customer going to do, what's going to be the optimal output for that customer. So that's our focus.
Yeah,
Excellent.
you know, Jay, Terry's an old time screen printer. June.
Now, Jeff, is he old timey or just old time? Is there an E on the end? Is that how old he is?
My next comment with that, because he led with that and I loved it. Anyway, June commented in our webinar chat to remind us that the ink has a 2-year shelf life.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
huge.
just like the F2000 and the 2100, this ink is also, it's the same ink. So it has a 2-year shelf life, which is a really big deal compared to other inks out there on the market from some of the competitors, which are 6 months or a year.
Yeah, and thank you, June, and thank you, Jeff, for that reminder. And Jeff, maybe you want to take just 1 minute and talk about some of that, because I remember in Matt's video when we were interviewing Matt just last week, he really did a great job of explaining why that 2-year shelf life is so important. And it's really not about the length of time, it's about what it means. Do you remember what he said about like the suspension and all of that?
Yeah, so the particles that make up the colors in the ink and the pieces in the white ink that make it bright and white, they stay in suspension longer. So it's a higher quality ink that lasts longer on your shelf. And you know, the advantage of that is that you can have ink waiting so that when you're ready to load that in, you're not worried about checking that expiration date and making sure you're not putting expired ink into your printer. Because if you do that, you void your warranty. So
Hey, Jay, I have a couple of quick comments about that. One is Richard Greaves, who's watching this, is a more old-time screen printer than I am. And sorry, Richard.
Nice. Throwing your friends under the bus. Wow.
Well, there's also a kind of a misinformation out there in the world. And some of you may have seen some videos from some other companies. And one thing they say about the Epson ink is that once you start to use it, the shelf life drops to 6 months. There's nothing more ridiculous than that, because it's still sealed in the container. So that is just false information. So it has a 2-year shelf life for as long as you have that either cartridge or bag that you're going to use in the F3070.
Yeah.
Fake news,
Thank you.
fake news.
Fake news. Well said, Amy. That's super funny. It is annoying, highly annoying, when we see that repeated on Facebook forum groups. You know, people, and then other people share that misinformation and, you know, play the old telephone game. One person passes it on, and the next thing you know, it's just ridiculous. You said it well, Terry. Thank you for clarifying that. Well, let's keep moving. We've got more information, more to share. This was a great PDF, and I know that we've all been able to dive in on it, but we're trying to do our best to make sure that we can also focus. Well, what does this mean to our customers? What does this mean to prospects that are looking for that next level, production level, you know, these breakthroughs that we've talked about? So I'm about to turn it over to you, Jeff, but were there any more questions before we do that?
no, we're good to go.
Okay, so back to our performance. We're thinking about now some of those features that make this print performance possible, that make these high gains. I call them gains in production, breakthroughs, gains, however you want to phrase that. But think about some of these features, Jeff, and go ahead and there's several slides I'm going to click through while you're talking.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll go through these, and then Amy and Terry can jump in and comment them on them as well. So one is the garment thickness optimization. This is really cool. This is one of my favorite features of this printer. So what this does is the printer automatically adjusts the print head to the thickness of the garment that you're printing on. So why that's an advantage, let's say you're doing a job and it's 25 t-shirts with 25 matching hoodies. You can be printing the t-shirts and then switch directly to loading a hoodie, and the print head will automatically adjust for the thickness of that garment, and you don't have to go manually do that. It's immediate, it's fast, and that's just a really cool feature. So it increases your production time immensely.
You know, when Epson tested this, they did something like 700 or 800 different garments, hoodies and t-shirts and different thicknesses of t-shirts, and one after another to test this, and didn't have a single error, which is awesome. Here's where it is. Here's what it means to us from a production standpoint. We don't have our operators going through and changing height and having to adjust anything, and allowing for an opportunity for a misprint. So that, I mean, for me, a production guy, that's the bottom line for me. It doesn't matter what the garment is. You just load it, hit the print button, and off you go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to save so much time. And once again, how many shirts and how many garments can you print when you take all that time that you've wasted trying to get that right?
Exactly.
It's really
Yeah, and having both benefits, as Amy said, you're increasing your opportunity times two here, because you're printing quicker, so your output and your yield goes up. But as Terry, you just mentioned so well, you also are eliminating potential waste, and we rarely talk about those misprints. It's like the unspoken secret. No, I never make any mistakes. You know, that's operator error most of the time. You know, but that print head automatically adjusting, I thought it was a huge breakthrough. I was super happy about this as well. I know Jeff was kind of doing his own little happy dance when he saw it.
Yeah, I was. So Nelson asked if this actually eliminates the head height error that you might see on the F2100 if you have a wrinkle or a seam popping up. For the most part, it will, but it's not going to fully adjust over really big wrinkles. Maybe you have a zipper with that cover on it and it's sticking up really high. So it's going to do an adjustment, but if you have some pieces that are just really in the way, it's not going to adjust for that.
So that warning symbol, that warning sign, that buzz is still there, right? It's to protect that from not happening, correct?
I believe it is. I haven't actually seen it.
Right. Yes. You're not going to get a head strike.
I heard it.
It will not let you have a head strike, just like the other ones. All right.
Excellent.
So the next item on this printer features for performance is the quick load hanger grip Platen. For some of you old school screen printers, this is where this comes from. So you're used to just sliding that shirt on really fast, and that hanger out front there is to help guide that shirt on and get us a quick, level, straight load each time. And not much more to talk about that. That's pretty simple.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sorry, Amy, you go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm just saying more speed, more productivity.
Exactly
Everything
right.
to get it going.
And Jeff's correct in that, you know, screen printers do thread their shirts onto the Platen. So with that kind of hanger at the top, it will allow you to quickly load a shirt that's threaded, but you don't have to. You can still either use a hoop, you can still, and just lay the shirt on top. You can use the gripper pad and lay the shirt on top. So it just gives you one more option. It makes it, I think, so also for screen printers who are transitioning or are adding direct to garment, it makes it a more familiar operation to be able to thread the shirt on, I think.
All right.
Good point.
Automated cleaning system. Actually, you have streamlined processing for greater productivity. That's where I was. So yeah, so a faster processor in this printer. So it's going to prepare your files faster once you hit go from your printer or from your computer, it will load faster into the printer. So again, you're in production quicker.
Yeah, we talked briefly about this at the beginning. Terry even covered this. I just wanted to make sure that folks knew that this was a big deal and that the data is streaming immediately as soon as you hit that blue button, which, by the way, the blue button is moved right there on the loading station rather than on the dashboard up by the LCD screen. But that again, as Amy will probably tell us, because I love that Amy's focused on profit and focused on more shirts out, less time. It's a big deal. I don't know if it's a new chip or if it's a different chip, but I don't care. The fact that we're getting this outcome is a big deal.
Well, yeah, the fact that it's basically thinking about the next job while it's doing the job you're working on, you know, right back to Amy's point, it just streamlines. It's just no break between shirts.
All right, automated cleaning system. So like the other printers, the F2100 and the F2000, this printer cleans its own printhead, and it does that with a fabric wiper. We've talked about this at length in other webinars, but that's a consumable, and that's important because this, you know, other printers that have auto printhead cleaners use a rubber wiper, kind of like a squeegee, and they'll squeegee it off. Well, there can get buildup. There can be something on that wiper that scratches across that printhead and ruin it. So Epson's figured out the best way to do this is with this fabric wiper. And so every time it cleans the printhead, it rotates to a clean section of that fabric wiper. And so you're always cleaning with the clean part of it. So it's a brilliant system.
You know, and Jeff, you're right. It keeps the printheads perfectly clean. And it's just a cassette you pop in and out, and it lasts for 2,500 shirts. So it goes through a lot of shirts, and to change it out literally just takes seconds to pop it out and pop a new one in.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, go ahead, Jay.
well, I was just going to say, it's a minimal cost, right?
It's $199, I think, guys. Is that correct?
Sounds right.
That's it.
The other thing about the cleaning
shirts.
system is that the printer, like the F2100, has cleaning solution that you load into it, and so it's going to do its own tube washing and do its own cleaning. And so the only maintenance you'll be doing is once a week. You'll open up the printer and you'll look in and you'll inspect that capping station just like you did with the 2100. And then you'll have to change out some of these consumable cleaning parts once in a while.
And is that a big deal compared to competitors? I mean, I've heard, Terry, you talk a lot about the opposite system. So this is
huge. It's huge because, you know, it's all about roadblocks in your system and opportunities for failure. You know, all machines require some amount of maintenance, but the Epson does the maintenance itself. So it takes out that variable. I was talking to a customer once. He was having an issue with a printer, not this printer, but another printer. And I said, you know, are you doing your daily maintenance? And he said, well, I'm actually in another state. I have an operator, but he tells me he's doing the maintenance. Well, you know, that's the life of having employees. Sometimes they do it exactly right. Sometimes they say, you know what, it won't matter. I'd really like to get out of here tonight and just skip it that night or the next night or the night after that. With a system like this that automatically does the cleaning, you never have that opportunity for someone to kind of drop the ball and not do the required maintenance. And as you know, as we've said, there's virtually no maintenance that's done by you or the operator of this machine.
Yeah, you know, somebody asked the question, is this the same one for the F2100? Francis, I'm not sure what exactly you're asking about there, but if it's about these cleaning parts, no, they're unique to this printer. They just operate in the same way, but the size of those wipers are going to be different. So those are, there you go. All right, so back to some of these other features. dust and fiber control via the air filtration. So they have the active air filtration, airborne dust and fibers actively removed from the print environment with the use of these 3 active air filters. So how cool is that? I mean, I know here in Arizona, Terry and Jay, Amy's in New Jersey, but here in Arizona, it is very dusty.
There's a bit of dust in the air.
Yeah, if you can imagine, well, if you have an image in your head of the old Southwest, it still feels that way sometimes. There's just dust constantly blowing around.
We have our share of pollution here, so we get a lot in the air too.
So Amy appreciates the air filtration just in a different way.
Just in a different way, but that's so important. I mean, first of all, no one can have a pristine operation, you know, and especially when you've got other equipment there. If you have screen printing equipment and you've got different inks and you've got dryers by nature are going to blow dust around. So this is really a great stopgap measure to make sure that it stays as clean as possible.
Think about this too, you guys. It reinforces the keywords that Epson's using to identify this. This is an industrial printer. This is the printer that's built for a, not, as you said, Amy, a non-pristine, a non-perfect environment. It's built to work, right? And so it's not going to be in a dust-free zone or some, you know, super clean lab with, you know, Jeff and Terry in their white lab coats and, you know, goggles. Well, wait, maybe they will be, but that's for another reason. But my point is, you know, these are the types of things that they've thought through to help make sure that the environment isn't perfect, but this printer is going to be fine. They've like got safeguards built around it. I mean, I don't know how you're going to have static zones that automatically draw dust away from the printhead. How the hell am I supposed to know how that happens? Thank goodness Epson knows how that happens and how they did it, and it works.
You don't need to see them make the sausage, Jay. You just need to know that you love the sausage.
Well, with that, let's keep marching along. I think it's funny that we all kind of have our own little takes here, but it's good. It's good stuff. And let's keep moving through this. Amy, you're up next. We've talked a little bit about, we showed a couple of Platens, but let's see if we can't share the next slide, if I can get this right, and showcase what's available and how this all works.
You know, when we had our first introduction to the printer, the group of us with the Epson management, that was the first thing that really popped into my head was, wow, what happens to all those Platens that our customers have that they've bought for their F2000s or their F2100s? Now they have to go out and they have to get all new ones. But no, the same Platens for those printers will work in the 3070. So that investment, which can sometimes be in the thousands of dollars, it does not, it still gets utilized, which makes this even a more cost-effective system, being that they don't have to go out and buy additional Platens, unless, of course, there are new specialty Platens that, you know, our customers are interested in. But otherwise, they fit right in and it's seamless. And that's the nice thing about the new system. They know Epson has a way of grandfathering in the other products when they move to a different level product, like they did with the F2000 and the 2100. They didn't say, okay, from now on, here's an F2100. Everything you've used on the F2000 no longer works. No, it all was grandfathered in, and they're doing the same now with the 3070. So it's really keeping the overall cost of production and ownership down for our customers.
And, you know, a lot of companies, when they go to a new printer, the next version, it's a new, completely different ink system, different priced inks. Everything's different. So over here, if you have this machine, you've got all those supplies. Over here, you've got all those supplies. And I did want real quick here that Equipment Zone has some very unique Platens that are for the F2000, the F2100, the F3070 that are exclusive to Equipment Zone, like our hoodie Platen, some things like that. So you definitely want to go to the Equipment Zone website and check out the EZ Platens, the letter EZ Platens, very unique products that are specific to things like face masks and things like that are exclusive through Equipment Zone.
Well said, Terry. And I'll have a slide at the end that shows that web page. So thank you for that small mini commercial wrapped inside of this training webinar. Well done, my friend. So just to be clear, the 3 hanger types, those are really the only new development in Platens for this printer? And would those 3 also be interchangeable with the other 2 printers?
I believe they are, although I didn't even stop to ask. But
they would have to be, right? They would have to be.
I did ask, and yes, they are completely interchangeable with the F2000 and F2100.
Oh, thank goodness one of us is an old-timey screen printer. He's ought to ask that.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. No, but that's a really important question, and we should have asked it earlier. They probably told us, but we were just too enamored with the print speeds and the quality. So once again, but you know, it's a sad state of consumerism when the 3 of us and most of our clients and a lot of the people we talk to, they're expecting the opposite. They're expecting everything to be different. Now I got to buy it all over again. You know, it's almost like it's sad that you know, we can almost thank Apple for that. I think if you don't have an Apple product, you haven't bought an iPhone, or have 4 daughters who have, then you wouldn't know the pain that can create. But if you do, then you know, and it's such a relief to see all of these interchangeable and work on all 3 platforms. Huge breakthrough. Right?
Correct.
Jay.
Right.
And then there was a giant pause, an awkward moment. Imagine that. I was preaching. I was on fire, man. I was jacked up. Okay, let's keep moving forward. We've got more to share than Platens. And forgive me for not being prepared for this, but Terry, you're up next, and we were talking about, again, you know, this idea of send and pause and why that's important. So I want to share the right screen here.
You know, when we transitioned from the F2000 to the F2100, I remember seeing the 2100 and saying, wow, it looks just like the F2000. It's just a different color. And then we started digging in, and I remember having a long conversation with Tim Check over at Epson about all the little nuances, all the little things that they did, where they said, we watched the F2000, we studied it, we talked to customers, and we made note of all the little things that they said, wow, if we had this, it'd make it even a little bit better. And they took all those things and put it in the F2100. You know, it's faster. It's, you know, all the different, you know, the variable dot print, that sort of thing. Well, they did that same thing, I believe, with the F3070. And Jay, you had mentioned this button on the front side of the machine, right where you have your hand when you put the shirt on. You hit the button to print, and you can also hit the button to pause. Also, right in the middle of the print, you can hit that pause button, but it's right within. Hey, instead of reaching up on top of the machine, it's right there in front of your hand. But those are the little nuances that Epson looks for and watches as, you know, this is what this one little thing is going to make this printer a little bit easier to operate for the customer. So, you know, kudos to Epson for paying attention to the little things that makes it easier for the person actually out there running this machine to be more efficient about what they're doing.
Well said, Terry. Jeff and I used to work a long time ago. We were not old-timey screen printers, but we were old-timey software guys. And we used to talk about shortcuts and keyboard shortcuts. And even if that keyboard shortcut saved you 4 or 5 seconds, multiply that over 1,000 uses, and we're literally giving you time back. So things like the operation button moving to right where you load your shirt, it's a breakthrough. It's a productivity gain. And as Amy has so well brought to the table many times now, that again is the game. It is profit. It is increasing our output and doing more in less time. So I went back and found that slide just so that we had a reference point. You could see it. Are you happy about that? Does that make your day?
I'm super happy about it, Jay. You see it all over my face.
It's just oozing off. Are we to the point where Amy's going to tell us a little bit about the Preferred Plus and the service programs and those levels?
I think we are.
Over the Epson Cloud and Dashboard.
Okay, well then if you want to highlight that, then let's do that first. Yes,
you want to do that first, Jeff?
I do, and I know Jeff does, because he'll feel left out, like he skipped him.
Yeah, it's your turn anyway.
We don't want to skip Jeff. He'll be so disappointed. All right, Jeff, I'm almost there. Give me one more second. And we are there.
Did I throw you off?
Share my screen. I've just got to make sure I've got the right slide queued at the right time because we struggled with that in our last session. So now I'm a little bit more prepared.
You know, I'm glad we didn't skip this because we didn't talk about this with Matt. I've been through a few demos now with Epson, and this doesn't get mentioned. I think this is the least talked about feature that they have going. And, you know, Terry, you were talking earlier about your client who said, you asked if he was doing his daily maintenance, and he said, well, I don't know. That's in another state, right?
Right.
Well, an owner can pull up productivity charts and usage from anywhere on any type of mobile device. They can do it on a tablet. They can do it, I believe they can do it on their phones. They can do it on their computers. And then they can just see, you know, how much the printer is being utilized, how much it's being run or not run. And this is a huge benefit for those owners that have employees. And I've a lot of talk out there about, okay, well, what happens when I have this employee? How quick can I get him up and running? And this is just one way to maintain their usage and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
You know, Jeff, also, when Epson, if you have any issues and they're troubleshooting, they can also go and look at the data and kind of use that for their own troubleshooting to help you basically get up and running that much faster.
Right, and that's all wrapped up with the service plans that,
Right.
you know, Epson can go in and do diagnostics that way.
Amy, you've seen that with a little bit more on the die sub side, right? You've got some clients that have the bigger high-end production and industrial die sublimation systems.
Sure.
Is that something that clients appreciate?
Well, it comes in handy. The dashboard that they have is very useful. There's a lot that they can do with it, and it's always good when you can communicate outward. I know that the only issue that I've heard, of course, is some companies have firewalls, and you know the firewalls could be an issue. But
yeah, but we're not gonna bring up those negatives. Those are for the nerds and the tech geeks. They'll figure that out.
But for companies that don't have them, it's great. And when you get to the service plans, which I guess we're going to talk about, it's really important. Yeah.
Perfect. That's a great segue. Before we do switch to the service plans, and I know you were going to talk about some of that support and the elimination of downtime, which is a big deal. Jeff, were there any questions? I thought I'd check our hall monitor and see if there's.
Thanks for checking in. And some of these don't have to do with that. So let me just make sure. I'll go over these after we're done.
Okay, perfect. So then let's kick it back to Amy and let's talk about what we were ready for next, which is the Preferred Plus program.
You know, we were talking about how Epson just went with something that was working very well and made it even better. So that's what they did with their Preferred Plus service plans. Epson probably has the best warranty in the business, bar none. I mean, on all their equipment. And, you know, and that goes across their photographic printers, their solvent printers, their technical printers, their dye sublimation printers, and direct to garment. They have got a wonderful warranty system and service system in place where they have a 48-hour response. And you don't see that with other companies. You know, other companies, they say, you know, we'll get to you. And maybe 4 or 5 days later, they call you. But Epson really takes a lot of pride in this. And what's nice is they took that existing really great program, and now they went over to the 3070 and they said, well, wait a minute. Although a 48-hour response time is good, let's make it better. Let's let our customers change a printhead if they need to. So they don't have to wait for us to overnight the printhead and then us to come and change it. Let's have them do it if they choose to do so. So they actually designed the printer with the ability to change that printhead without any tools. I mean, it's crazy. You've got this machine that's an industrial machine that's going to do thousands a day, and they don't even need a tool to change a printhead. So that's the new Epson service plan that's been put in place. There are options. A customer can choose to still have Epson do the service for them. And Epson will use the cloud to help diagnose the problems. And Epson will still come on site if that is the plan that the customer chooses to go with. But for those customers who say, no, I want to be in control of everything, they can totally change the printhead themselves and get right back up and running and just not lose a lot of precious time and a lot of precious money. That's it in a general sense.
Such a huge point. I know Terry's going to jump in here, but such a
Yeah.
huge point. Of all of the major blowback and drama that I hear about our competitors, at the top of the list is the slow response times or the very unacceptable response times should something go down. And so to know that Epson has made this system better, given us more choice, quite honestly, and to eliminate what could have been a 48-hour turn could now be less than an hour, and someone could do it on their own without parts. I mean, without like tools. I don't have Jeff knows me, Terry, you know me. I'm not a tool guy. I'm not the kind of guy that's gonna try, get the wrenches out and start fixing my car. I need somebody to do that. But after I watched the video, I was like, I'm pretty sure I could do that. It just gave me confidence.
Add to what Amy was saying, you can renew this warranty for up to 5 years. And you can do it at the end of each year, of course. The thing that really amazed me, and I had to go back and double check when I heard this to make sure I was correct, while it's under warranty, to buy, and you can have printheads sitting on your shelf, as Amy was alluding to, that to buy a printhead, $695. I mean, that's just unheard of in direct-to-garment printing. You're lucky to get away with $1,200, $2,000 for a printhead. So,
Harry, if I can interrupt, that's unheard of in any printing.
Exactly.
Any of the technologies, right. That's unheard of.
And I wanted to comment too, and sorry, Jeff, I'm sure you have some comments as well, but I also wanted to comment about that 48-hour service. Epson guarantees when you do need service. Now, of course, yes, you can do your own printhead, but you need some other service. They guarantee in the warranty to have a technician to you within 24 to 48 hours. The closest competitor says we will have a technician to you within a reasonable amount of time. Now, if you are down, your reasonable amount of time is different than that technician who's trying to fit you into his schedule. There's a big gap in a reasonable amount of time. Epson guarantees it. For the most part, that technician is there the next day. And we're Epson's largest reseller of direct-to-garment printers in the country. And therefore we have hundreds and hundreds of customers. And I hear all the time, first of all, I've never had a service call. But second, when I did have a service call, the technician was there the next day and I was up and running, and people are just thrilled about it.
So let's be honest. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Somebody's commented about 48 hours. That didn't happen for me. What happens if our claims don't come to fruition? As we set this expectation all the time. For sure, occasionally something's going to happen. Occasionally a ball will get dropped. Occasionally someone's so remote that it takes longer. But what would you say to a prospect or a customer who says, if it doesn't happen in 40 hours, then what do I do?
Well, Jay, I would need to know a little bit more about the specific situation. I know that when COVID first came on the scene, the first few months, these repair guys were struggling to figure out how to do these on-site repairs. And it did take a day or two longer. If you are out of warranty, and here's another great thing about this service plan that I think gets missed a lot. I've talked to people who have had other printers, and one of their big complaints is, you know what, I'm out of warranty, but I'm happy to pay for repair, but I can't get anybody to come fix this. I can't even send it someplace and get it fixed. With Epson, you still have access to that same repair service, to those same technicians. When you're out of warranty, you're just paying for it. The difference is going to be, instead of them rushing out within a day or two, it might be a week. So I don't know, Tanner, or who was it, Jason mentioned this, I don't know all the circumstances.
Well, right. No, you're right. And I knew this would bring up, some individual and specific scenarios, but I also knew that other people would jump in and said, that's funny because I just had a support call.
Right.
Parts were overnighted to me and the service guy was on my doorstep the next day. So clearly we want to address it. I didn't want people to think we're going to hide from this. I stand behind it. It's a point of pride for me. I don't know about you three. You're in the sales trenches every day. It's got to come up on a pretty consistent basis. Would you agree, Amy? Would you say that that's something that you kind of pride yourself on?
That, when I talk to customers about any of the Epson printers, I always talk about service. And I can't remember a time when a customer told me that he was dissatisfied with the service when he needed it. But it's rare that my customers have needed service. So I can't really, I don't really have a history.
We get a lot of that at trade shows where people come up and say, I printed 25,000 shirts and I've never had a service call. But my greatest example is a customer, a client in Virginia who called me and said, hey, Terry, I had an issue with my printer yesterday. And I said, well, hold on, let me make sure that we've got support on this for you. She goes, no. She goes, I called at 2:00 yesterday. The Epson tech was here at 10 o'clock this morning and got me up and running. And I just want to call and say thank you. And, how often do you get a call to say thank you about a service call? And, and I just hear from, I mean, I've never had a client tell me that they weren't, that the technician wasn't there within 24 to 48 hours. And 48 hours, in my experience anyway, is rare.
Yeah. The only two times I've heard about it, Jay, is if they're out of warranty, they still get the same techs out. It might just take a couple of days extra. And at the beginning of COVID, I heard that it was taking an extra day or two as they were trying to sort out how to best handle the service plan.
Well, I appreciate you all addressing that. I just wanted to make sure that people tuning in don't think that we're just going to skip over that. If in a rare occasion it happened, of course, Epson would want to know about it and probably try to remedy that. Well, is there anything else that we need to add, Jeff? We had some questions at the end I know that you wanted to talk about. We've kind of hit that spot where we're about an hour out. I want to make sure to give you guys the time to answer and address those questions.
Yeah, I've got a few questions. One, if I can find it here, was about how to calibrate colors required to match up with a client's expectations or specifications. So how do we match colors? And Terry, it's probably the same as it is with all of the direct-to-garment printers, right?
Right, it is. Or if you're a screen printer printing CMYK, it does take a little bit of experimentation, a little testing to get, because, in the end, CMYK, you can print 16 million colors, but it's not like as a screen printer doing spot colors where I've got to hit John Deere green. So by gosh, I'm just going to print PMS number whatever as a spot color to hit that color. So it is going to take a little bit of experimentation. The garment creator, though, if you're working out of Photoshop, is very true to the color. If you're working out of Corel Draw, you're probably going to do a little bit more tweaking, a little experimenting, and by that I mean doing some test printing. Hey, can I say something real quick about calibrating? Something we didn't mention when we talked about changing out your own print head. When you change that print head out, the printer will automatically calibrate that print head once you've installed it. So you don't have to do anything but drop it in and tighten down the screws.
That's a really good point, Terry. Amy, maybe you can fill this one. Will we see an update on the garment creator for this printer?
I understand there are a couple of extra tools in this one for the 3070, but aside from that, Garment Creator is a great program and it works beautifully with all the models. So I've been told there's not really going to be an upgrade, so to speak.
Yeah,
or just extra tweaks here.
It's still Garment Creator, but specifically for the 3070. So
right.
It takes advantage of the features of this printer. Okay. Somebody asked if we can send this PDF out, Jay. I imagine. That we can.
Yeah. So what I would recommend we do is to make sure that those of you who are going to connect with Jeff, Terry, or Amy, I'm going to make sure that you three have it, and then you guys can have a dialogue and a discussion over any information or answer any questions with that PDF. So it'll be up to the three of you ultimately.
Okay. And I think this would be a couple of great questions to end on. First of all, where's the ink savings coming from? The price of bulk ink, or is it because you don't need to do a double hit white underbase?
Great question.
So, the print is still putting down the same amount of underbase as you would see on the F2100. The big price break and difference is going to be from the bulk pricing. So as Terry mentioned before, when you do what was it, a 14 by 16 print, Terry, you mentioned it's about $1. All right, and let's end with this one, Jay. I think this is a perfect one to end on. So we've been talking about performance and how this relates in the production world. This printer is more than 3.5 times the price of an F2100, right? Do you truly believe the efficiencies to be gained, including print speed, ink costs, new features, and less opportunities for failure, justify the extra cost?
Great question.
Been on that?
I think that this printer isn't for everyone. I think it's for that business that's trying to that's in a position where I need 3 or 4 printers, or I've got one, and gosh, I probably need to add 2 more. That's probably the person for this. I think that over a period of time, the ink cost and the efficiency is going to justify the expense. But again, if you're a screen printer and you're getting maybe every day somebody's coming and saying, well, I only need 3. Why can't you do 3? Amazon will do 3 for me. XYZ company will do 3 for me. You're probably better with an F2100. If you have a website and you're really cranking out product and you're having trouble keeping up, or you have the potential to expand your business, I think that's where we are here. But at less than half of the ink cost, and certainly far less than half or bettering your production by more than half, I think that the efficiency is there. Again, I've talked to people about this printer and said to this person, I think the 2100 is better for you. This person, I think the F3070 is perfect machine for you. It just depends on your situation. And Amy and Jeff and myself are more than happy to kind of talk to you individually about your particular situation. And we'll be honest and frank with you. We're never ever at Equipment Zone going to sell you a machine that we don't think that you need or is going to be productive for you. I don't know how many people like hat presses. People say, well, I need a heat press because I want to do hats. And I think all of us say, no, don't do that. Don't buy a hat press. Buy a $29 heat gun. That's what we use. So we'll always be frank and upfront with you, because we want you as a client today. We want you as a client 5 years from today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to add on.
Go ahead, Amy.
Well, I think to add on to that, if you have an F2100 now, but you find yourself farming out jobs that you just can't do because you're not in a position to add another shift to your work. You can only do 8 or 10 hours a day. So you've got to farm out these big jobs that your machine just doesn't handle. Then by all means, you should talk about that with one of us, because there does come a time where that 2100 is going to be great for maybe you say, okay, this is now my official mask printing machine, or my hat printing machine, or I'm going to go into specialty canvas sneakers. And then all that other work can be offloaded to the 3070 plus what you're sending out, because you can't handle do it enough. Then you've got something to think about, because it is an investment, and it's an investment also in employees. you've got to have somebody who you need someone to run that. And you also need someone with a heat press, and you may have to get a conveyor belt dryer. So when you're at this point, we're talking about people as well as equipment.
One thing, Jeff.
Points. I just wanted to add this. After we did the last webinar on this with Matt Rome, somebody emailed us and asked me to send the site survey. So when you're looking to purchase this, Epson will ask you to do a site survey to make sure that you have a facility that can handle a printer like this, because it's larger. You're not going to push this through your regular 30-inch door. And when they looked at the site survey, they said, oh yeah, this won't fit in our shop. So there's a pretty good tell right there if this printer is for you, if it can even fit, if you have the shop space for it. But if you're doing, it comes down to that bottom line number. How many shirts do you plan on printing in a month? If it's 1,000 and under, you're probably looking at an F2100. But if you need to do more than that and you see yourself growing exponentially over the next few months, then the 3070 is for you.
Two things, if I could. Also, don't forget the savings in the cost per print. So your production costs, what it costs me to make a print, also dramatically go down. So I need to factor in those savings as well, not just in the bulk ink and not just in the increased speed. Sometimes that's similar. People think it's the same thing, but it changes job by job by job. So you might see increased profit, your bottom line for sure. And then the flip side of that coin, I appreciate your honesty, and everybody should know us by now as Equipment Zone, as the straight shooters. We're not perfect. Yes, we have made mistakes, but we tend to own them and fix them as fast as we can. Is the fact that what Terry said, this might not be for you, and I think Jeff, you said the same thing. But also, I want to build on this. This isn't a replacement for the F2100. I don't think we've said that yet. So we will still be, because we care and because we're competitive, we will still be the #1 reseller of the F2100. And we look forward to helping people add in digital printing techniques and abilities to their embroidery business, or to their laser engraving business, or their screen printing business, or just an entrepreneur who wants to do a startup and they can't wait to sell more taco t-shirts, right? So, with that, guys, I think we need to begin to transition to the end, unless there's any final questions.
I think that's about it, Jay.
Awesome. So let's wrap up. Here's my my closing screen here. Thank everybody for participating in our F3070 overview. I appreciate Amy and Jeff and Terry, your time. You guys brought so much great insight to this, asking the frequently asked questions that a lot of our prospects and clients are asking us. As Terry brought up, we do have a page dedicated to the Easy Ultimate Platens. I have to tell you, on our Facebook, it's a private group, but on our Facebook group, we've had a lot of folks who've recently purchased this one, which is our newest and super duper cool sleeve printer. And they were doing hoodies and they raved about it. They loved it. They flipped out. It was so much easier to do. They were doing both sleeves at the same time, and they were doing the whole sleeve. So shout out to our folks back in New Jersey who worked with our team to be able to engineer these amazing new Platens. Specialty Platens are important, and this would also work on the F3070. So we've got that going for us. For those of you who maybe want to watch the past webinar where we had a chance to interview the one and only, the OG, the original gangster of DTG printing, Mr. Matthew Rome from Epson. That was last week, and that video is still on our website. You can go there or go to YouTube directly. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're still growing, but we'd love to have you if you haven't subscribed. That way you get a notification. We typically add 1 to 2 new videos a week. That way, if you miss one, you'll get the notification. And then, of course, the dream team of all Epson printers as it relates to our company at Equipment Zone. We want to make sure that you know where to go and who to talk to. So there's Terry, Jeff, and Amy's info. So that's it. That's my wrap up. I hope this was informative. Appreciate you one more time before we say goodbye. Any closing words?
Thank you, Jay.
I think
you're welcome.
Great information.
My pleasure. Talk to y'all on the other side. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.